Another day, another Amber apologizer. So as you know, a few years ago I made a video about the round table and how they completely misunderstood the Amber versus Mark conflict and why people were actually upset about it. So in the meantime, while I'm working on the animator versus animation video, I decided I'd talk about this other gem that I found. This video is going to be generally pretty low effort when it comes to the editing, not like the video in question actually deserves any effort to begin with. I'm gonna skip the intro and the first half of the synopsis since it's just a recap and also complaining about comments or something. I don't really care. I'll tell you when it becomes important. Anyway, let's roll the clips.
You know?
I'm not an idiot. I figured it out weeks ago.
Then why are we fighting?
We're fighting because you lied to me. You made me feel stupid and unimportant.
Amber isn't upset with Mark because he snuck off, or because he missed some dates. She's upset that he'd been lying about the reason for months, and she's upset about the chronic lack of trust that shows. Telling her now, of course, means nothing. Mark's only prompted to do this by Amber's breaking up with him. If she hadn't have done this, he'd still be keeping her in the dark. And the fact that Mark's willing to break the secret now, use the secret identity card to try and fix a relationship, kind of puts to bed the notion that he couldn't have told her before, right?
Not really. It was a pretty impulsive decision by Mark and doesn't alleviate any of the actual risks. At most, it just shows that Mark was immature about the whole superhero thing. Hell, Season 2 even further implies these dangers with the entire meeting group that Debbie goes to. They keep things there confidential beyond first names for a reason. This sort of shit's pretty important in this world. Mark's decision to drop this bomb wasn't proof that it didn't matter and that he could have told her at any time. It's just proof that Mark is kind of an idiot.
Anyway, that's the fight, and it probably bears mentioning that by the end of the series, they've reconciled. That's the 411 though. And if you're hearing that and thinking, cool, a subplot about the mess and harm juggling the secret identity can cause to superhero and love interest alike. If you're thinking, yeah, I guess she could have been more empathetic about it, but to empathize with Mark's difficulties, he'd have to have told her about them, and wasn't that kind of the problem?
Well, considering Amber had that information at the time, it's an issue, just not in the way you think it is.
If you're thinking, I guess she could have been less dramatic about it, they could have communicated better, but again, they're teenagers on a show full of teens in whom a nascent maturity coexists with immaturity in a pretty realistic way, and that even in reality, without alien dads and supervillains to contend with, teenagers in relationships very often fall prey to these same problems: failure to communicate, being driven by hurt, fear of honesty, all that. If you're thinking, sure, Mark's sacrifices were necessary, but stringing Amber along, forcing her into the doting superhero partner trope without her even knowing, that wasn't.
It's hard making it all fit.
Sure, that's fine. Then make that choice. But then this? I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, you see, and I'm pretty sure most people wouldn't mind that if Amber wasn't played to basically be the only good guy in the scenario here. He then goes on to try and claim that the interpretation here is that both of them are partly wrong and partly right, which I do agree with, but the show very clearly favored Amber in this scene.
That this isn't the show forcing strong female character at us, telling us the male hero is bad and wrong, something something subversion, something something SJW, something something Western civilization, but was in fact a layered and nuanced confrontation between two people who are both a bit right and both a bit wrong, that maybe Invincible's wider development and reevaluation of simple right versus wrong hero-villain dynamics extends beyond the costume section of its world, that it might be able to present a personal life conflict that isn't simply goody versus baddie.
Oh my god.
It's okay. This is why I'm always late, or why I don't show. Because I'm off saving lives, or stopping some bad guys, or going to Mars. Did you hear what I just said?
Ugh, I know you're a superhero.
You know? You know?
I'm not an idiot. I figured it out weeks ago.
Then why are we fighting?
We're fighting because you lied to me. You made me feel stupid and unimportant.
It's a secret identity.
And because you don't trust me.
I'm trusting you now.
Oh my god. I mean, it's cute you think that's enough.
But Amber!
Someone correct versus someone wrong, and that it's uncomfortable to watch because you, the viewer, realize, as Mark does, that maybe his perspective, the one the show's so far focused on, privileged, implicitly justified, isn't quite as right as you'd thought, or as the genre tropes it's based on often tend to assume. If all, or any of that is what you're thinking, then yeah, right? Congratulations on the functioning brain. Us brain havers, though, turns out we're something of a minority.
Oh my fucking god, he's one of these dire gentlemen's fucking sarcastic chorus type of assholes. You disagree, you dumb, me opinion, smart opinion, These are the people that tend to do best with a good old metal bar to the teeth. People for some reason like to assume that there's some protagonist tunnel vision that everybody's going through. Oh my god, Mark the good guy, why's she mad at him? He good guy though, why's she mad? When that's literally not the case at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are arguing the exact same points that he is. As a matter of fact, most of the people that dislike Amber in the show, I've heard them argue that the comic version of the breakup is a lot better, because it definitely is. Nobody's arguing that Mark never did anything wrong at all. Nobody's arguing that Mark is 100% in the right here. Hell, nobody's even arguing that they shouldn't have broke up or that Amber shouldn't have been upset about it. We're arguing that the method that Amber handled the situation, especially with the knowledge that Mark is a superhero, was dumb, and it was kind of bitchy.
I do now, though. Remember the intro, the pinned comment, the replies? Well, I wrote that on Tuesday night. It's now Wednesday, and we're up to 7. These are the rest. Coincidentally, overnight we got some more Amber talk in the Discord, some pictures of Instagram comments from the newest Season 2 promo. Watch the whole season be about Amber shitting on Mark again. I don't feel like having to tolerate Amber again. Amber deserves the train treatment. You only have to scroll down once to see the same on YouTube. Why is this the case? Why are people still so angry at Amber, still convinced her character is irrational, a stain on the show, all this years after those episodes came out?
Wow, people dislike Amber's character. I am honestly shocked, befuddled, hornswoggled even, and I'm about to hit you with a shocking new reality check. Okay, hear me out. People don't like watching characters they don't enjoy watching.
Well, for one, it's among Season 1's more major departures from the comics, which automatically puts a certain segment of any comic book property's viewership on defense mode. There's also the usual elephant in the room, and I don't want to get properly into this here because we'd be here all day, but it would be remiss of me when talking about the curious longevity and dominance of this beat, the way it sometimes seems to eclipse the rest of the show, not to at least point out briefly that suppositions of anti-male agendas, anti-SJW rage and all that, was baked into the beat and farmed for countless views across this platform, still is to this day in fact.
He took those screenshots without watching the videos. The feminist labeled in the first video was the guy's wife. He says so in the description of said video, and I watched it all the way through. The second video has absolutely no points about it being any sort of SJW type beat, and the guy in said video is also black, which becomes very funny later on. But he just looked at the thumbnail, saw white woman good, black woman bad, and instantly decided that that was going to be his example. The last video he posts doesn't even have 1,000 views, and the last is from some random fucking guy on a movie chat discussion page on why Amber is black. The fact you couldn't find 4 good examples just goes to show that the elephant in the room isn't all that big, is it?
Invincible is too good. What I mean by this is that there's sort of 2 layers to Invincible. There's the level in which genre tropes are played straight, power fantasy, super teams, the double life, the love interest, but there's also a level, or levels beneath this, where those tropes and the assumptions that underpin them are questioned, sometimes even deconstructed and reassembled. We talked a lot about this side of Invincible in that previous video, only scratching its surface mind, but while that sub-level substance is juicy as heck, so is the surface. The animation, the voice acting, the direction, the audio design, score, soundtrack, the world, the fights are all really good. So good that however much Invincible might invite you below the surface, you can have a pretty good time just watching it straight. And when you do that, Amber's hurt, her violated boundaries, her subjectivity, these are hard to pass.
Cool, that doesn't really change any of the major criticisms people actually had, but cool.
Invincible even gives us this early on.
You left a girl in your room while you flew off to deal with a crisis. Good. I mean, not good for her, but good. That's the tricky part of the job. Balancing what you want to do with what you need to do.
This is in episode 3, and to the uninitiated, it's an utterly standard line. It's a line you could hear Peter giving to Miles. It's a line any Big 2 mentor could give to their super protege. It's superhero fiction by the books. But if you do know who Nolan is, things get a lot more interesting. Nolan's arguing for duty above desire, but realizing Nolan's lesson that what the hero has to do is more important than what they want to do is an extension of his Viltrumite infiltration logic.
Remember, you're not just a superhero, Mark. You're a Viltrumite. We have responsibilities.
Is him arguing in code that defeating Earth is more important than his family? It becomes clear that this isn't necessarily trustworthy advice, that maybe Mark shouldn't have dropped everything with Amber to help Cecil clean up a mess, shouldn't go on to do that again and again, that maybe both personal connections and helping the cause are important. This exchange is interesting as setup, as an early indication that following his dad's advice, building a relationship under this rigid mindset might not be the best approach.
This is a strange argument because just because the statement was recontextualized after Nolan was revealed to be a traitor, it doesn't really mean that it's wrong. Darwin tried using evolutionary theory to prove that men are more evolved than women. That doesn't automatically make evolution wrong because it was once used for a sexist narrative.
But it is of
Apologies, I did not know Mark was cake like that. Anyway, continue.
Of course, also one of the textual manholes Invincible offers to the viewer as an entry point into those deeper levels. One of the signs that this is a show that wants you to go with it in reevaluating the tropes the genre takes for granted. When you do this, when you go with it, when you start to extricate the story from the predetermined roles and assumptions a century of superhero stories has stacked up, when you stop taking for granted that the protagonist is always in the right, that his is the most important interiority, that the building of a months-long, seemingly serious relationship around a series of constant lies isn't going to result in valid hurt, and that hormonal teenagers are going to be able to operate and communicate with perfect rationality, empathy, and emotional generosity, you'll be able to watch episode 7. Watch the Amber confrontation as the show wants you to see it.
Yes, but not all things in a story are right just because the person who wrote the story says they're right. That's that whole show don't tell thing that people talk about in writing a lot. Now, the show does a good job at showing you what it wants you to believe, but it's not doing a great job at convincing you that what it wants you to believe is correct. As a matter of fact, how they did write it did nothing but dampen the effect of what they wanted to have happen.
And to be clear, I am not saying that even after all this, you have to like this romance, this character even.
Considering the people who dislike Amber have been described by you as lacking brains, I highly doubt this position.
I'm not even trying to tell you not to criticize Amber. Everyone responds to art differently. That subjectivity is what turns this from a thing we're all looking at together into something meaningful.
The fact you only want people to watch this show the way it's quote-unquote meant to be watched makes me highly doubt this position. Alright, he's yapping, so we're just gonna skip to around, here. Here sounds good.
The moment people usually cite as proof is this moment from episode 6.
Where the hell did you go?
I ran for help, but there wasn't
You
anyone.
lying piece of
Wait,
shit.
no! This isn't what it looks like.
You took off. You left us here with that thing.
Amber, no, that's not what happened.
You said you wanted to start over. You said that. You promised. Even Eve vouched for you, and then you do this? Eve was wrong about you. So was I.
The following episode indicates Amber knew Mark's secret at this point, and the usual claim is that this episode 6 scene doesn't make sense in this new context. But if you are a brain haver, you might be confused, because yeah, it works fine, doesn't it?
Ooh, we're back to the spooky no-brain havers again.
Knowing the truth hurt that even in this situation, even after their fresh start, Mark is still hiding things. Amber is simply seeing how far she can push these lies, how hard she can needle away at them before he comes clean. But he still doesn't, and that's why she leaves here. I'll leave a more detailed breakdown of the way this exchange is perfectly functional in the pinned comment for anyone still unconvinced.
I'll leave the comment on screen here if you want to read it. I'm not going to because I don't really think it matters. Even in that context, he admits it's still manipulative and pretty fucked up that she would try to do this to him, not just in general, but in front of his friends, who she was trying to make him look like a dickhead coward in front of. But no, we justify it because ooga booga perfect character boring. Flawed character and asshole are not synonymous. I don't get how after thousands of years of storytelling, people are still confused about this.
But this is pretty representative of the wider Amber problems people often grant, in that there's things we can read differently, things we can quibble over until the end of time, but nothing that flat out doesn't work. And that you can imagine an alternate version that you like better does not a problem make.
Again, the problem isn't that it doesn't make sense, the problem is that it's stupid and Amber is an unlikable character here. You know, this is the argument that no Amber defenders ever really seem to get, that Amber is an unlikable character in the moments mentioned. And in all of those scenes, it's only an issue because she knows that Mark is invincible. If it was not for that one singular fact, nobody would care.
If you're a vocal Amber hater, I suppose nothing is stopping you from taking all this as a challenge, from launching into renewed, frenzied litigation over whether or not woman bad in this comment section, in the comments of the next Invincible video you watch, and the next one.
You can dislike a female character regardless of their sex. See, this really wouldn't be that shocking if you care for the context.
But isn't that just a little sad? Isn't it a shame that you've watched this fantastic show and your primary concern, the part you're most invested into, the part you're arguing with strangers online over, is female side character bad? Isn't it a pity that there will be plenty of people, some of them content creators, who are going into Season 2 with their main concern being how it does or doesn't respond to one scene from the start of Episode 7 and the online furor that's followed it for years?
No. Oh god, no, are you telling me that people are focusing on a side plot in Invincible? Oh, the horror!
I think so, but it's gonna happen anyway. So, in a sense, what's at stake in every both sides admission that you're going too far, but I guess Amber could have been done better, isn't simply whether or not Amber bad, it's also what we're talking about, what gets focused on, what gets ignored, and how Invincible gets experienced for new viewers. It's the same principle as the Brie Larson Captain Marvel hate train.
You know, I was starting to take this guy seriously until, he used the Marvels as an example.
So, if after all this, you still think it's nuanced, realistic, praiseworthy when the government's heroes, villains, other powers don't properly communicate, aren't infallible, when right and wrong give way to grey, but that Amber opposing on equal terms our demonstrably non-perfect protagonist, being hurt by his secrets and apparent lack of trust is unacceptable for some reason, that no, she owed her then ex-boyfriend moral absolution and total forgiveness because in an attempt to win her back, he stopped lying to her, then jog on, I guess. And maybe also Google misogynoir.
You see, remember when I talked about the guy in the other video that he was criticizing being black? This is the moment that I was talking about. This is so fucking funny. Nothing gets me giggling more than white people trying to appeal to black people when the topic has nothing to do with black people to begin with. As you can see, I am a member of the Blaxian master race, and seeing people make racial arguments out of something that is not racial at all is fucking hysterical. Want to know one of the main people that got on that sort of Amber hate train back when it was first popular? Long Beach Griffey. And guess what race Long Beach Griffey is? Okay, but maybe that was just a fluke. Maybe those 3.3 million views are just a complete and utter sham. What about this one? 1.6 million views. Oh my god, it's another black person. Oh, 770,000 views. Let's see. Oh my god, it's another nigga. I am so deceased. Literally all the top videos ranting about Amber, they are from black people. So to conclude that not only are Amber haters pretty fucking sexist, but they're also racist is kind of funny considering the people who are criticizing Amber. And all the people defending her? Pasty as fucking chalk. It is amazing. This is only making me realize that he did not care to watch a single fucking criticism about Amber, which you probably should before making an entire video on the topic. Also, again, with the sexism thing, I'm just gonna go ahead, put on funnywomansong.mp3 again.
You can dislike a female character regardless of their sex. See, this really wouldn't be that shocking if you care for the context.
Anyway, that's the end of the video. Judging by the rest of his catalog of videos, I can very clearly see why he chose to take this route with Amber, and I'm not gonna watch anything else because I don't care enough about this guy to keep watching any more of his content. Anyway, I'm still recording my animator versus animation video, so that's gonna take a long time, and you can expect like a bunch of side projects to just be dropping in here and there, but it's gonna come out eventually, and it should probably be my longest video on my channel. Anyway, that's all I had for you today. I'm going to go to bed.